Hi everyone, this is Peg with Bits and Pieces from My Artistic Life. This is in celebration of fall. You know, fall is all about colors, and I love the autumn and the colors that are involved in fall. And part of the Creative Arts collaboration going on the 17th through the 20th is this month concerned with fall and how better to celebrate than to use fall colors in my creation. So you can see I have this big P. The letter P is the beginning of my name, and I picked it up for $1 in one of the clearance aisles, and I thought, well, this would be a fun thing to alter. I had a lot of the papers left from the art kit that Heather had supplied for the Craft Shack design team. So I started by applying those papers with some matte medium to the surface of the P. I also found that I had some of this red burlap left, so I cut it into pieces and adhered that to the surface also. Now this was a little bit tricky because it kind of wanted to fray a little bit and get fibers everywhere, but I persevered and I got it down, and I have to say I'm really happy with the results. You know, it was a little bit fidgety and fussy, and you know, that's okay. I don't mind doing some of that kind of work. Um, and I hadn't really worked with a burlap on something like this very much, so it was a new experience for me. Now you can see I'm coating the whole surface with some white gesso. I thought that I needed to tone it down and knock the surface back a little bit and just, you know, hide some of those differentiations in the color. I want to use some of the colors in my stash to do the coloration, so I'm just thinning with a little bit of water so you can still see some of the background that's there, and covering up the things that I want covered up. And now I'm using the Prima stencil that also came in the kit. I used a texture paste through that stencil and applied it in quite a few areas on here because I wanted a lot of texture. You know, I love texture on my art, and this gave me an opportunity to provide that in my background. So of course I have to have some drying time in between here, so I would go and do a few things and come back. Now here you can see I've come back and I've pulled out those metal embellishments, some of which are included in the kit and some are things that I had in my stash. And I'm just using some either, I think I used a couple of different adhesives here. I used some glossy accents and I used some matte media. So I'm placing things around where I want them to be, and use some Prima flowers. These I had sprayed previously. I really wanted to alter them because it wasn't what I was going for overall in color. These were more metallic, and I wanted to bring in those bright colors from fall. I also had this plastic frame, which is out of the dollar bin. Like if you go to any of those stores like Michael's, they have these frames and you can pick them up cheaply. And I had put a coat of gesso on initially, and because it started out turquoise, wanted to change the coloration to match my project here. So of course I'm going back and coating those other embellishments that I added with gesso, and the frame and the leaves and the flowers and just about everything, so that I can unify the project with the colors that I'm going to bring in. Now this was a piece of packing tape. I had done a packing tape transfer on my jelly plate, and I was using it in the background of this little frame because I thought it needed to have a little pop there. So I took a piece of that packing tape and loaded it into the interior of the frame to finish that surface out. Now I'm going in with some silks, and I used a number of different colors of silks on this project. One is the honey amber. That was the main color that I used. Then for the reds, I used a spiced pumpkin and a coral berry. And then I had a emperor's gold and a pretty peridot. I also had some of the paint left from my kit, and I still do. There's a lot in those little cups, and that was a golden olive Prima chalk paint that I used on the leaves, and you know, just splashes of green here and there to emphasize that area of the leaf and the texture of that. And then once I put the golden olive on, I went back and touched it with the pretty peridot to add a little shimmer to that and a little deeper, more of a shadow effect on the leaves. Okay, so I'm thinning down the glaze because I just want a thin coat to go over the background surface. I want it to fall into those crevices that I created by using the stencil, and I just want to get a base coat down all over the surface. This is what I talk about when I talk about unifying the project. I want to get a base coat down and add to the composition. I'm having a little difficulty there keeping things in place. I just keep adding and adding things as I go. It's a lot of fun once you get to this point to just play with all of your embellishments and find what you have in your stash and see what you can put in there. Now, once the glaze had dried a little bit, not too long, but enough so that it's starting to dry, I come back with a baby wipe and mop up some of the areas that are a little bit too thick and try to get some of that dimension showing. And then go back into those areas again that I think need just another touch. Now you can see I'm still gluing, still adding more of those Prima flowers. They're beautiful flowers. I thought about creating some of my own out of some of those paper stash, and I was looking for my Clearly for Art, which I didn't come up with. And while I was looking, these Primas kind of fell out and said, use me. So that's what I did. When we create, we don't always have exactly what we're looking for. I try not to let those things frustrate me, and I just go ahead and use whatever I see that's available, because heaven knows we all have things in our stash that we can use for creating something. So now I'm going back in and redefining some of those areas with the different colors, and then you'll see eventually I'm going to go get my bloom sprays. I wanted to pull out some of those fall colors of bloom spray, and I have some golds and tangerine and a green, and I just start spraying where I want to combine some of those colors in here and add the shimmer to the background. So that was a tangerine. You can see how it's changing the color of the things that are already down there, but it also helps to unify some of those. This one is a limey green. Not sure what that one was. This is the teal. I know that's the teal because it's got that deep blue-green color to it. And just play with it. If you don't like what you've got, it wipes off and you can go back and put something else on there. But I love these bloom sprays. I think they really add to the dimension and the shimmer, and just really help to unify what I'm doing. So that's about it, folks. Thanks for stopping by.